Okay, hey, I want to go over the books for this course and explain basically why I chose them and how you might want to engage with them. All of these, in case you don't have them yet, there's Look Inside on Amazon.com, so you can basically look and read the first section of each book to see whether or not it's speaking to you, if it's one you actually want to buy and add to your library. And so it's possible to get through the course without these books if you don't want to buy them, or with just one or two of them. And if you were only going to buy two of them, I would probably choose Artist's Way in Designing Your Life, or I would choose Writing Down the Bones and Designing Your Life if this style is speaking to you more than the Artist's Way. I'm going to say a little bit more about these books and how we're using them and approaching them here in the next few minutes. The first book is Writing Down the Bones, Natalie Goldberg. Hundreds of books are around that tell us how to avoid bad writing. Here's one that tells us how to create good writing. She says it's about subtracting rules rather than adding them, which is really connecting to our work in Zen and thinking about Zen presence. She also is really making the point that writing is not about writing, but writing is about living and being present to our experience. This is the sense that Writing the Good Life is not a course for writers. It's a course for human beings who want to write, compose better lives. I love this book. It's fun. It's a nice encouragement to write every day. There's nice prompts to write every day. And she's really exploring this idea of what it means to write, and writing well as fulfilling your function as a human being and performing that function well. So I highly recommend this one. That's why it's in the course. Second one that fulfills a similar space as Natalie Goldberg is Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. I want to say a couple things about this book. One, this has been one of the most transformative and powerful books I have ever experienced. It came when I first went through the first part of this book. It's a 12-week program for artistic recovery. When I did it 7 years ago, I only got through the first 7 weeks, but that was incredibly powerful for me. While it is a really powerful book, it is also, by my standards or by my taste, kind of terrible at the same time. It's a little flu. It's a little, I don't know how, some of the ways she writes in this might be very off-putting to you. And I mean, it says the subtext is a spiritual path to higher creativity. Now, if we have kind of an aversion to spirituality or spiritualism, it might be harder to get into this book. Also, she's basically talking about how to reconnect to our inner child, and how that inner child is the source of creativity, wonder, play, and power, ultimately. And to kind of uncover our inner power from the world and from culture and from language that has kind of suppressed our natural inclinations to be more creative. So we talked about existentialism last video. This is the book that gets us closer to our creative existentialism and helps us connect to this creative wellspring inside of us. Very powerful. This book has changed a ton of people's lives. And there's really two reasons, frameworks from this book that we're going to use, whether or not you like Julia Cameron or not. And I can say, usually I end up starting each workshop loving this book, and by the end of it, I'm like, give me a break, Julia Cameron. So it's wonderful and also kind of wonderfully terrible at the same time. So if you can kind of balance that and be like, okay, some of this, or a good way to put this is about half of this book is awesome, and about half of it is terrible. So I think it's worth it for the half that's good, which is why I'm assigning it. And she's also giving us two things that we're going to keep from it. Basically, the morning pages and the artist's date, which we'll go over in day 2 of 2 videos from now. But so you can do the course without this book. I would recommend it, even if some of it is a little off-putting to you, because some of it is terrible. But it's still a great framework to approach living a good life with more sense of play, more childlike wonder, more creativity, and artistic self-expression. And It is a nice framework for the practice of writing down morning pages, just free writing every day, getting into a journaling habit, which has got tons of scientific backing on benefits towards happiness, gratitude. A lot of what we do in this course is built on a kind of variation of the morning pages practice. So she's really good about that, and that's worth the price of admission, honestly. And it's worth putting up with some of the terrible stuff in there. Okay. These both are kind of on the existential creative side of the course, not really about writing per se, but about creating a life we want to live. Designing your life is the other pivotal, this is like the counterbalanced scientific behavioral design component of this course that I love. I loved this book when I found it. It is basically two Stanford design professors that taught user-centered design that found what they were teaching in their design classes, not graphic design, but like designing a pencil or designing a widget or designing a stapler or something like that. They found that their design curriculum translated and tracked onto student advising really, really well. And this book shares what they've learned about how we can design our lives. So this is kind of like the course is writing the good life, but it could also be said that we're really working on designing the good life. So I would really recommend this book. There's also a workbook that you could buy or accidentally buy. But you don't need this book because there is so much material online that they are giving away for free because they really value what's in here. So I'm going to give you links to that as we move forward and read more of this book. But this gives us the pragmatic basis of being able to try stuff, build failure immunity, choose happiness, build a team around what we're working on, iterate and have a bias to action, reframe our thoughts towards more productive ways of looking at the world and our projects and our process and our lives. So I really love this book. There's an entire movement around this, the Designing Your Life framework and design thinking applied to life design. It's brilliant, surprisingly brilliant. I'm usually skeptical with books that are called How to Build a Well-Lived, Joyful Life, even though I'm really into that. It just seems like a little hokey and self-helpy, which I have a kind of aversion to as a skeptic and a scholar. And then you read that they're Stanford design professors that started the Stanford D School, and it's like, yeah, it's legit. It's awesome. Okay, and then the last one, which we're going to do the least with, but this fills Writing Without Bullshit by Josh Bernoff. Boost your career by saying what you mean. In the subtext it says basically what this is helpful for. This is for professional writing, and if you are in a position where you are either trying to launch a business or get as part of your project is to advance your creative work with marketing, public relations, emailing, team building, professional writing, broadly speaking, this book is a really great resource for that. So we touch on this in the second or the last third of the course when we really start thinking about how to share our projects with the outside world if you want to do that. And it's a nice one, and that's kind of the professional writing from the course. Okay, so writing down the bones, Zen philosophy, free writing, writing to explore who you are, and writing as a mode of being who you are, and writing as a technique to live the best life that you can. So awesome, fun. She's also a great writer, just killer style. Artist's Way, creative exploration of who you are, an existential path, if you will. Designing Your Life, kind of science-backed design principles to design, redesign, iterate your projects and your life itself. And Writing Without Bullshit, sharing your projects, sharing your products, writing professionally, so on and so forth. Again, you don't need all of these books. You definitely could get by without this one, and you could get by without Designing Your Life because there's a lot of stuff online. And you could get by without The Artist's Way, and you could get by without Natalie Goldberg's Writing Down the Bones. But to make this more real, Natalie Goldberg's really fun. She's really great. And Julia Cameron has a lot of interesting exercises and an interesting approach to this. And Bill Burnett and Dave Evans are freaking brilliant, and this book is really kind of fun and easy to read and accessible. So I'd recommend these particularly, but I'm going to make it possible for you to do the course well without them, in case you so choose, or you read the little samples online and you're like, this isn't for me. You don't need them, even though they're recommended. Okay, that's the books, and let me know if you have any questions and or other comments on other resources you might like to bring in or share with the group. I would love to hear it. Thank you very much. On to episode 3.